Hello and welcome to a very special Rocksmith developer stream. I'm one of your hosts today, Doug Lilly, the community developer for Rocksmith, and beside me, hello.
Hello, I'm Chris Wu, Senior International Product Manager on Rocksmith, and I am today's co-host, a color commentator, if you will.
And I think you will. You will, it turns out. So if you're here for the first time, this is a little bit unusual, but for the most part, it's going to run as we normally would on a week-to-week basis. We're going to take a look at this week's song pack, which is Chris Wu.
Well, this week's song pack is scheduled for 3 songs.
3 songs.
Which we'll hear shortly.
Yeah. So this is the what's the name of the song pack, Chris Wu?
It's the wrestling theme song pack.
Wrestling theme song pack. So 3 songs, 3 theme songs for wrestlers, all composed by Jim Johnston. We're gonna play through all 3 songs, do an extra song. We're gonna have some giveaways throughout the stream, and very importantly, I was able to sit down and talk to Jim Johnston for a little bit last week, so we're going to air that interview towards the end of today's stream. So please stick around for that. Throughout the stream, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us. UB Jurassic is in the chat. That is Brian Turner. He is the Rocksmith Community Manager. So mention him, get some questions to us, and we'll try to answer some throughout the chat. Right now, I think we're going to move on. Chris, was there something you wanted to introduce?
There was, but I kind of did that earlier.
You did, but do it again because it's coming up now.
For the soundbite, okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't like.
We're not gonna do it. Okay.
We're
gonna take a look at the 3 songs in the wrestling themed song pack. This was all very well thought out, and we practiced every line.
We're live, folks.
We're live. Live television is fun. Let's take a look at the wrestling themed song pack, and we'll come back with that music right after that. And there you have it. 3 songs in the wrestling theme song pack, all composed by Jim Johnston. All from, and I've heard this phrase around the internet. These three theme songs are from the Attitude Era.
Yes, this is from the Attitude Era in the sort of like late 90s, stretching into like the very beginning of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
When professional wrestling really was probably at its peak in terms of the mainstream awareness, pop culture, and like viewership on TV.
Right.
So,
yeah, I know in that time, I think most of my friends were fans at some level.
yeah,
I think,
that was the time
Generation
when
X was
everybody watched. DX was a big name. They had like stickers outside grocery stores. You could buy them with the little like gotcha mechanic
right,
thing.
and there was the gesture that you saw everywhere.
Yes,
from
the
everyone.
The chop,
The chop,
if you will.
Yeah, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I guess you can if you want, but it seems silly.
I think
to
it's
do it
below.
right
I don't
now.
know if that,
yeah, we're just
that's
not
on
going to
camera.
make
It's not going to
yeah,
communicate
it's out of
well
frame. Oh,
on
I'm
air.
so sorry, everybody. So let's go ahead and introduce our first guests for today. To our left, Andrew Levin.
Hey,
How's it going?
good man.
Good. So you tracked the song that we're about to play.
Yes, I did.
What song are we about to play?
Electrifying.
Electrifying.
Yeah.
Who's the theme to which wrestler?
I don't know if you can smell it, but it's
I can.
what the Rock is cooking.
It turns out I can.
Yeah.
And Sharon Marmito, welcome
Hi.
back.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Great, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate you asking. So it's very cozy here today.
It's a bit cozy for sure.
So this pack, I don't think it's a problem if I say this has been a sort of passion project.
Yeah, I think we have dabbled in music in places you wouldn't necessarily think of before. We released the Ubisoft music soundtrack. We've done movie themes with Rocksmith Goes to the Movies, and I had pitched that I think a interesting venue to explore would be the world of professional wrestling themes, which is kind of type of and need of music that people don't necessarily think about, but I think for a generation of people, and like I said, like especially during the Attitude Era, it was music that was really everywhere, and arguably this kind of pop culture music, music in the media, music in other forms, music not specifically to be like necessarily a standalone song.
Right, it's part of a greater spectacle. It's part of a greater event.
But it's its own work of music in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think you pitched this like 2-3 years ago or something, right?
Yeah. There have been several things. So music licensing obviously moves at a very unpredictable pace. Sometimes it goes quickly, sometimes it goes slowly. But it's an idea that we've been kicking around for a while, and I'm glad to finally see us bring it to everyone.
It's
Laying down the smackdown.
Yeah, that's right. It's been pretty fun for me. The wrestling fans in the community have been pretty thrilled from what I've read.
Right.
So this is a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and play Electrifying.
Cool.
Take a look at
Sure.
it. And don't forget to ask your questions to UB Jurassic in the chat. And stay tuned later because we're going to have some more prizes and that interview with Jim Johnston.
Cool.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can smell what the rock is cooking, and I think it's a song-length pentatonic solo.
Yeah, it's definitely cooking up a pentatonic solo.
Yeah. So you know, track to that. Not very often that we have songs that are pretty much just solos for the duration.
Yeah. I mean,
Happens every now and then.
Yeah. You know, I've had a few. There's been a few.
I know. You Maggot Brain you had,
Yeah.
which was a several song-length solo, guitar
Yeah.
solo. But yeah, did you have to do anything special to approach this differently? Any of the parts?
No,
Because this is a different. It's not a rock song, but it sounds like a rock. It has all the hallmarks of a rock song. I guess it is a rock
The
song.
rock song.
Yeah,
so,
it is
yeah.
the rock
Yeah,
song.
good call.
Thanks,
I'm
Chris
glad,
Wu.
I'm glad I was able to set you up for that one.
Yep.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I had to do anything particularly different, other than taking a long time on it.
Right.
Yeah. Other than spending the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly pretty pentatonic stuff. There's nothing too crazy in terms of like, oh man, this is super wild, huge tapping thing. A lot of times we
Right.
have to, particularly tapping and extended techniques are usually when we have to really think about doing things super differently. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we always have to think about how we're going to approach it, but yeah.
It's actually a relatively accessible long solo, I'd say.
It is.
Right? Just by the nature of how it's based on the pentatonic.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking this song is kind of a poster child in terms of why you should learn your scales, because it's long and there's a lot in it. And if you don't know your scales, particularly the pentatonic scale and the different positions of the pentatonic scale, it can be pretty intimidating because it's a whole lot of notes. But if you know your scales well, it's not as intimidating. There's still a lot of specific things. As you can see, I didn't get 100%. You know, there's still a lot of notes in there to practice and whatnot, but it's a lot more. It makes a lot more sense if you know your scales.
Yeah.
And sort of on the flip side, Sharon, the bass line's very steady, but it is the riff that I think people associate the most with the rock's theme. Like the guitar is all the extra spice, the extra flavor,
Yeah.
but the meat and potatoes of it is that bass line.
Yeah, and I want to add also that if you want to just rock out on the guitar part, the rhythm track on this song is essentially the same as the bass part, but with power chords.
Okay.
So that's for the more
Power
meat and
chord
potatoes rocking.
bass riff. So that would be like if you think of the song, like what is the song?
Mhm.
It would mostly be the rhythm part. and the bass.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
the attitude for sure.
There you go. Yeah. Cool. Do I have a question? Yeah, we'll come back to that one in a little bit.
I have one more comment on
sure,
just
please,
the Rocks theme, just
please.
an interesting musical thing that anyone watching can check out, is that in the world of professional wrestling, wrestlers often have themes, but they can be updated. Sometimes they get entirely new songs, but sometimes what Jim Johnston has done is evolve a wrestler's theme through the years. And a great example of this, possibly one of the best, is The Rocks. And The Rocks has had many themes throughout his career.
30 or something.
Right, he's had a lot of variations, all stemming off from when he was first in the Nation of Domination. But one thing that you can kind of see as the common thread is the bass line. Like, you see the beginnings of the bass line way early on in his career, and then as he kind of like rose up the ranks and got more prominent, I think Jim's on record in interviews as saying he kind of amplified the punch of the song. There was just louder, more grandiose, befitting his rise as a character.
And his personal theme song, am I incorrect in thinking that it started off as the group, the stable that he was originally with?
Yeah, I think it was it was synonymous with that stable to a bit, because I think Owen Hart even had his own version that kind of riffed on the Rocks theme, because he became the leader of that stable.
Okay.
Which kind of informed his own identity.
Cool. All right. Well, we are going to give away our first Ernie Ball prize pack. I want to thank Sharon and Andrew for stopping by and playing the song. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Right now, please listen to what UB Jurassic says in the chat. Once again, that is Brian Turner. He is our community manager. For your chance to win the first Ernie Ball prize pack of this stream. Chris Wu, please tell the people what's in the Ernie Ball prize pack.
Well, if you've stopped by the stream before, you already know by now. But for those of you who are new, the Ernie Ball prize pack will include, first of all, strings. That's what Ernie Ball is known for. There'll be a pack of Ernie Ball Slinky bass strings as well as guitar strings. We're also going to send you 2 different sets of picks, one set of Ernie Ball picks, as well as one set of our own one-of-a-kind Spectrum Plectrums
Spectrum Plectrum.
made by us here on the Rocksmith team.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we're going to send you a peg winder so that you can help change your guitar strings and slap on those new strings you've just won. And we're also including a guitar strap for you, which is a nice candy apple red, maybe a little bit less shiny than an actual candy apple.
Yeah.
And to top things all off, we're going to send you a set of Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes, which is perfect for keeping your strings minty fresh.
Keep your strings fresh. Keep your guitar's body and fretboard nice and polished, conditioned.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we have the strap here, which I guess I could have made as a sort of a belt of some sort.
Oh,
but,
yes.
but I did not, because that is going to go to somebody.
It is.
At
This
some point.
you will get this actual strap.
Somebody will get this actual. This strap is going to stay here until I need to send out.
But
the last
eventually,
surprise.
somebody gets the
someone will
strap.
get that strap. Yeah. So if you are entering the raffle right now, if you win, first off, congratulations. Second of all, make sure you send Brian Turner, UB Jurassic, your full name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. We need all of that information in order to send your prize to you. We do ship internationally, so if you're not in the U.S., don't worry. We can ship to you, but please make sure you separate your address line by line so that I can just enter it in and not have to figure out how your country formats their addresses.
Don't make it hard for Doug.
Yeah, please, don't make it more difficult for me than it has to be. So I do have a question in the chat, Chris. Let's see, Akami Nodin wants to know if original soundtrack songs are able to be requested and put into Rocksmith as DLC.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing stopping anyone from requesting music they've heard elsewhere. I think the main question when it comes there is how do you format your request, because sometimes it can be hard to think about how does a song from a movie, for example, fit into the standard like artist song title format, which we have.
If it's a score, if it's a song from a score, it's probably going to be the composer he would want to put as the artist.
Right. I think one good reference, for example, is like if this music is available on a streaming service or available for purchase, whatever that's listed as is going to be helpful. That way, if we, for example, needed to look it up or catalog it, it'll be there. We don't have to make any interpretations on our side. And some of this information really is out there, even if it's not readily apparent. Like you can find movie soundtrack and find out who that composer is, and it'll be available. And Spotify will credit it as such, like if you went on there and took a look.
And just look, and you can find other songs by that artist if you want, which again may be a composer, but it should kind of catalog everything for you, so you'll know you're on the right track there. I think it's time to say hello to our next guests of the day. Hello, next guests.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going good.
Brian Chu, Note Tracker.
Yeah.
I see you don't have your newest guitar.
No,
You
I
have
don't.
this guitar, which is this new to you?
No, this is an old guitar, but I put a fendered neck on it.
That's what he keeps.
But it's not as old as it looks.
It's not as old
Right.
as it
It isn't
looks.
right.
Yeah.
It's
a workhorse.
fake old. Or is it real old or fake old?
I don't know. I'll let you guys decide.
Okay,
fake
fine.
old.
It's fake old. Okay.
I think
fake
you mentioned this on stream.
You did. Sometimes I listen. Amy Batista, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm a little tired.
You a little sleepy? Sounds like
Yeah.
it. Sounds like it. So you are playing Break the Walls Down, which is the theme for Chris Jericho, which you, Brian Chu, note tracked.
Yep,
That's true.
I did.
So what have we to look forward to in this song?
Well, like a lot of the songs in this pack, for the lead guitar, there's a lot of kind of pentatonic box type of riffing, if not soloing. I don't think there's no real like solos in this particular tune. Just more like some funky kind of lead licks.
Okay.
But it's kind of funny because that stuff that is in the lead is actually kind of far back in the mix. So
Yeah.
it's like kind of playing it to it. It makes it sound pretty different, but it's still really cool. It's kind of funky. It's like kind of funky guitar parts over like a hard rock thing, and a lot of I think a lot of the theme with this kind of style of music is there's a lot of that tritone thing going on where it's like kind of an E to a B flat.
There it is.
Or like the half step thing from like an E to an F. Or if you're really cool, you can combine them both. You know, it's kind of
it's very very attention grabbing.
It's actually like
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is from the very we'll just say early heavy metal. There's a lot of riffing like that.
All right.
And it's kind of to communicate that like feeling, or because like all these songs serve a very explicit purpose in that they're supposed to be tied to the person that's walking out when it's being played, and also to often hype the crowd up or something, or make them feel a certain way that fits with the character.
Yeah.
And just
Most
it's
definitely.
usually it's very often the first thing that will sort of reveal which athlete is coming down.
It's something like, it's not dissimilar to what you see in movies where you'll have these themes for characters interwoven into the soundtrack.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's take a look at Break the Walls Down. Again, if you have questions, please ask UB Jurassic in the chat. Otherwise, make sure you stick around for the interview with Jim Johnston later in the stream.
You know I got ya. Yeah. One. Break the wall. Break down the walls. Foot down. What you want, baby? You know the truth. You please, baby. All I got is not from the least. Bring it to the stage in the rage of the beast. Step in the arena and break the wall down. Step in the arena and break the wall down. Coming on down. Jericho. You know I got you. Now you know. Yeah. Jericho. Yes. I'm awakened from the deep sleep. You're all weak. You're living in the agony of defeat. I am the master of your whole league. I am the panther rocking like sheep. Step into the tail and break the wall down. Your heartbeat is my only sound. Step into the light and now you know. You were stopped and dropped by the wall of Jericho. Jericho. Coming down. Now you know. Break the wall down. For those about to rock, check the clock. For those about to jump, I won't pump. For those about to go, walk it slow. Break down the walls of Jericho. What you want? I break it down. What you got? Jericho all around. For those about to rock, what you want? Baby, you know the truth is now you please. Baby, all I got is not from the least. Bring it to the stage in the rage of the beast. Step in the arena and break the wall down. Step in the arena and break the wall down. Coming on down, Jericho. You know I got you. Now you know. Jericho. I'm awakened from a deep sleep. You're all weak. You're living in the agony of defeat. I am the master of your whole heap. I am the panther rocking like sheep. Step into the tail and break the wall down. Your heartbeat is my only sound. Step into the light and now you know. You were stopped and dropped by the wall of Jericho. You know. Jericho. You feel me? Now you know. Break the wall down. Now you know. For those about to rock, check the clock. For those about to jump, I won't pump. For those about to go, walk it slow. Break down the walls of Jericho. What you want?
So I heard in the chat, I read in the chat some people pointing out Rage Against the Machine and Beastie Boys as sort of maybe where this vibe sort of spawned from, which makes sense considering the time.
Yeah, I mean
This
that
was-
was kind of when Rage would have made their real mark on popular music, and clearly there was a lot of overlap in terms of what wrestlers liked. You see
Right.
that carry through on another song also, the Rage influence.
Yeah, they were. I think a lot of people wanted that aggressive, that very particular brand of aggressive music
Yeah.
at that time.
I like the sound effects in that too, and just like glass breaking and
Yeah.
like cars zooming
There's
by.
the car zoom. I don't think I had listened to this with the headset on,
Uh-huh.
and I kept hearing the cars back behind me and getting confused and frightened.
Mhm.
To be honest. But I figured it out, and I'm okay now.
Yeah.
Everything's all right.
Cool. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So once again, a lot of licks, and I
Yeah.
I wouldn't not call it a solo for the
Huh?
whole thing. I would not call that a sort of
Yeah, it's like a
song
lead
like solo.
riff
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, and
yeah.
again-
It's supposed to be kind of in the background.
and then the bass and rhythm just sort of keeping the meat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
down.
Yep.
In fact, like it kind of complemented. I think it complements like the car sound effects and stuff. Like
Oh,
when
yeah,
you're doing that
it's
because it's like
Like especially if
the Doppler
if
effect.
Andrew would turn on my thing. Okay. It sounds like a car horn.
Yeah, yeah. Do it. You want to do it again?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh no,
Oh, now I don't have any.
we'll get there.
Okay, now I just have clean sound. Okay, there we go. There you go.
Perfect. First try. Got
there
it.
you
Nailed it. All right.
Alright, no,
and,
it's more like
I
this.
saw Dark Messiah. He said the pun that I was gonna say, which was that Rocksmith is Jericho now. He used to say it. It's a thing.
Okay.
Dark Messiah knows what I'm talking
This
about.
is why you're here. This
Yeah.
is why we. This is why I asked you to be here today.
Everyone
uh,
just made the list.
Yeah. So
Cool.
you know,
I've always
Chris,
wanted to be Jericho.
Chris knows all the wrestling information. I don't. It's fine. All right, we are going to take a very quick break right now. And while we are watching this video, which is not the interview, that's coming up later on in the stream. This is a look at one of our staffers here, Nick. While this video is going on, we're going to give away 5 copies of this week's DLC, the wrestling theme song pack, for Steam. We're going to give away 5 copies of that in the chat. So make sure you listen to what UB Jurassic says. And good luck. We'll see you very soon.
There was this Craigslist post that popped up that said, guitar transcriptions, $10 an hour. I ended up talking to this guy, and it turns out he had a company called Game Tank, and he had a patent and a basic idea, which was, I want to be able to play Guitar Hero with a real guitar. Eventually that turned into Rocksmith. So when I joined the studio, there were 4 people in the studio. That was the beginning of Studio SF. My name is Nicholas Bernardi. I'm the lead audio designer of Ubisoft San Francisco. So I went to Berklee School of Music in Boston, graduated from there 4 years. When I was done, I came back, and lucky for me, the place that I grew up, San Francisco, just happened to have a lot of industry opportunities for what I was looking for. If you live here long enough, you find yourself taking for granted the fact that you're like driving over the bridge every day, and this is like an absolutely ridiculously beautiful place to live. People travel thousands of miles to do my commute to work, yep. So Audrey was a girl in Japan who learned how to play guitar only from Rocksmith. And it's been really awesome actually seeing her development. She posts more and more videos. She sight reads songs and just like nails them like 90% or up each time. So yeah, that was definitely one of those moments. It's really, really, really rewarding. There are some people that have been with us since the beginning of Rocksmith 1. There are some people that have been at the studio even before third parties started making their own games and it became the Ubisoft studio. There are some people that are relatively new that have joined us only for South Park. What I'm liking is that the collection of people at this studio, I think people really like the studio culture. They really like how we do things. So I'm really excited to go to the next steps of what is going to come from the future of these relationships that we built over this time.
And welcome back to this week's Rocksmith Developer Stream. I'm one of your hosts today, Doug Lilly, community developer for Rocksmith.
And I'm Chris Wu, Senior International Product Manager on Rocksmith.
That senior does sound nice, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Sounds good. So today we are looking at the songs of the wrestling theme song pack. Right now, we're going to take a look at a bonus track, which is not in that pack, but has served as a wrestler's theme. Chris Wu actually provided me all the information as far as what songs in the library could serve this role.
Yeah, so not only has wrestling used original compositions for wrestler themes in the past, but there's actually also a very long history of them licensing music in some cases outright to use as a wrestler's theme, either at their request or because they think it's a good fit. Sometimes they even use public domain music like Pomp and Circumstance.
Right. Just depending on, again, the character that is supposed to be represented. To play this bonus song, I'd like to welcome Ryan Ken.
How you doing?
Doing well. And Travis Kindred, how's it going?
Hello, it's going very well. How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome.
So you guys are going to play Cult of Personality,
Mm-hmm.
which is heard a lot on the stream in the context of the video that we usually play.
Yes.
Because it tends to get highlighted.
It's a nice
yeah,
video. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, we played it at Rocksmith Live. I think Jason Coco was playing bass, and of course
Audrey.
was playing guitar, and she destroyed the solo because
Which I'm not going to. I'm going to be BSing my way through this one.
Well, when I looked for players for this, your hand shot up.
Just because I think it's
you
an
were
awesome
ready.
song, and
It
I'm
is an awesome song.
old enough to remember when it first came out in floppy disk fashion in the floppy
floppy disk.
45 LP.
floppy
in-
is in the
in Guitar Player magazine.
The record was literally floppy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, like
Not floppy disk, like a 7-inch like Macintosh formatted.
3.5 inch or
That's what that save icon is,
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. It used to be a physical item that you
Guitar
have to
Player
put into a
magazine
computer.
used to have the
Yeah.
actual
Little
thing to put
45s.
on the turntable. Yeah,
That's neat.
Mhm,
I didn't know that. I don't-
it was all
Oh,
cool
yeah.
guitar stuff. Like they'd have Yngwie, Steve Vai, and then this song came out of the blue. I'm like, whoa, what's up with that solo,
Nice.
man? It's throwing in everything.
Pretty serious. And Travis, thank you
Yeah.
for stepping in on the bass. Neither of these parts are easy.
No, they're
These-
not.
This is not an easy song.
Well, it was very interesting for me because there wasn't like a, oh, hey, who wants to play bass on Cult of Personality? It was, hey, Travis, can you play bass next Thursday? And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. And then it was like, okay, cool. Well, it's Cult of Personality, so great job.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, I like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
bury the lead.
I didn't tell you what the song was before
No.
I volunteered. Oh, cool.
Which is
Oh,
fine.
darn.
I'm
fine.
really good at my job. Because I got you here, and
It
you're gonna
worked.
play it, and it's going to be great.
But yeah, I will say on this choice of the song, this is, although we have actually several songs in our library which we'll talk about later, which have used as themes or are connected to wrestling in some way. This is probably the one we see the most as people acknowledging the wrestler whose theme this is
Yeah.
when we put out videos that it's about, and that wrestler is CM Punk, who used it as his second theme when he was wrestling.
Yeah.
And Living Color even performed it live.
Yep.
For one of his entrances.
What's interesting for me is that like I grew up really into wrestling, like especially in the early '90s. Like I was all about it. I bought every magazine. I had all the toys. I would like get the wrestling ice cream bar from the ice cream
Oh,
truck.
classic.
Oh,
CM Punk
so
cut a
good.
promo about that, actually.
No
and
way. So here's the thing: is like I got out of wrestling right at about 98, 99, and that's when CM Punk started.
No,
Start-
Punk was later. Way later.
99 is
Not-
I checked before I got here.
No, but not in the big.
not in the big leagues.
Yeah, as an
But
indie.
that is
indie
that
guy,
is
yeah,
in the
that's
indie.
fair.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm saying, and that's what I was into as
Yeah.
well. Like I was watching all like the I wanted to see people like as they came up.
Right.
And so I was like totally into like public access wrestling.
Okay.
So like I would have caught him, but I got out of it just as he was getting in. So I was like, oh, cool. I get to like look up a wrestler I don't know that well.
Right. As a side thing, it's cool because a lot of people from that started out at that time are coming into their own and prominent, like right about now, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's
They've-
super cool.
They've sort of done the rounds, paid their dues,
Mhm.
and are at the forefront.
Yeah. No, that's accurate. Styles and Joe are two examples.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so fascinating, and like I like where wrestling is today too. Like I don't know if you've all mentioned like Hood Slam yet.
Not yet. Local independent wrestling promotion.
Yeah. It's here in the Bay Area. They've been going on for years, and they have like all
10
of
years
their
now, actually. This
No
year.
way, it's
10
a
years
decade?
this year, yeah.
Oh, that's wild. They actually have a band. I'm friends with everyone in the band, which is how like I got involved. But like they have a band that covers like that does like covers of wrestling songs and licensed music. But like Hood Slam also incorporates people dressed up like video game characters or fictional characters. So they'll do like the Ninja Turtles theme, the Street Fighter theme, and that one band just plays all of them live. Like they don't pre-record anything. It's amazing. It's so much fun.
That does sound fun.
Mm-hmm.
You sent me a link to that, and it looks interesting.
Yeah,
to go.
like they.
I just have to get out of
I
my
guess
house.
we can randomly plug them on. They stream their stuff on Twitch also. You can actually
Yep.
catch them on Twitch. They have their own channel.
okay.
Just hey, we like Hood Slam. You're cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Support the little
they're
guys.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Also.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Cult of Personality. Again, if you have questions, reach out to UB Jurassic in the chat. And we do have that Jim Johnston interview coming up at the end of today's stream.
And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Look in my eyes, what do you see? The cult of personality. I know your anger, I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. Like Mussolini and Kennedy. I'm the cult of personality. The cult of personality. The cult of personality. We are alive. Know their cries when a leader speaks. The reflection lies. We won't have to follow me. Only you can set me all the things you need to be. I'm the smiling face on your TV. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. I exploit you, still you love me. I tell you one and one makes three. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. Like Joseph Stalin and Gandhi. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. The cult of personality. The cult of personality. We are alive. Know their cries. The leader speaks. That leader dies. You won't have to follow me. Only you can set you free.
Yeah, sing forward. Nice.
It's good, clean fun.
I'm exhausted on your behalf.
It's a great song.
It is a great song.
Just yeah.
So that pattern, the sort of
like the main riff.
What makes that different? Is it a seventh?
Wait.
That's
It's interestingly enough, I read an interview with Vernon Reed a while back where he said basically it's G Mixolydian mode. So and he was influenced by, I wish I could remember the name of the Jeff Beck tune, but it's a riff that goes Lead boots.
Lead boots.
So, and you can even hear it in the last tag. So we said he kind of got inspired for sort of like a G7,
Interesting.
G Mixolydian, and G7.
Oh,
is
so
like
it's the same thing,
same sound.
but he inverted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the top note becomes a bottom note.
And it's a lot harder to play.
Right.
And it's, the picking pattern of that is pretty brutal. Actually, I just realized as I was just playing. Just alternate picking that, you're skipping over the. Yeah, it's going from an up to a down over the A string. That's hard to do
Tricky
for
to
a long
get under
time.
your fingers. Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at the notes coming at you.
Well, yeah, so Rye's desk is beside mine, and he's been practicing today, and it is truly impressive to hear you just just practice all day.
Oh, thanks.
Sounds great.
Well, the rough part is the solo, because he never played it the same twice.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen Living Color recently.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think they're playing tomorrow night in Santa Cruz for a free show. I don't know if anybody lives
Like
around
on the
here, but-
boardwalk or something?
Yeah, boardwalk stage.
Okay.
Cool.
I think I saw him.
Yeah, no, his approach is definitely like avant-garde,
Right.
Sort of like Ornette Coleman free jazz style, throwing in anything but the kitchen sink, and then even throwing that into.
But if you want to move away from pentatonic,
So
for a
it's
bit.
hard to basically, without practicing like hundreds of hours, to really nail exactly what he's doing. It's more gestural, like what he's doing.
Okay.
And,
So just
yeah,
get,
so,
get those
you know.
concepts, get that mode under your.
Yeah, you kind of just, if you get a few licks and then the bend's in the right place, I think you're
Doing
getting
pretty
the gist
well.
of it. Yeah, I mean, because his guitar playing seems to make more sense now that it did back then. Like when I've seen him play live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
Not taking anything, he's a great guitar player.
Oh, for sure. That riff is all like it's mimicked exactly on the bass, which is also pretty.
How
hard.
does that work with the finger? That must be.
Oh
rough,
yeah.
huh?
So like I mean I use two fingers. So like to do it correctly, it's a
Yeah.
right. So
Gonna drop
like
your
a
hand
roll.
down.
I usually do first finger and then second finger and then that just basically sweeps down. Right. And that's a really common bass figure. Like you might even go
Right.
where you just kind of drag. Like you hear a lot of bassists, they do like nice runs up and then these sweeps down, and that's because they can just drag their finger back across. And then you get some cats that do that with a thumb going the other way, so you can get kind of that sweep action that you would normally see on like a more virtuosic guitar part. But yeah, I did this a super cheater way because I have a bunch of recordings to do this weekend, so like I didn't want to tire up my hands. So instead of going right, I went.
Oh.
Right, so that yellow 5 is the same thing as an open blue. So that D on the A string is the same as an open D. So
And I've seen it transcribed that way too.
yeah, it like
Which would be
logically.
incorrect. I mean, it's the same notes, but it's not the Rocksmith
it-
way.
It's
right,
the
right. Well,
authentic
it's
Yeah,
like
right. The way Vernon did it originally, I believe that's also the Rocksmith way. We
Yeah.
didn't just make up our own way. to
no,
do it.
yeah. It's the authentic transcription.
Yeah.
Like it is correct. This
Yeah.
like if you watch
This
videos
is
of them
how-
playing, that's how they play, and you can hear a difference. Like so like the primary audible difference is that when you play it with enclosed techniques, so that all fingers, no open strings. Right, it's a little hard for me. Every note has a punch to it. But if you do it with the open string, it's a lot harder to get that open string to have the same length.
It's not as consistent.
Yeah,
almost
and so
like
you
it
can
almost
really
swings a little bit?
that open string really kind of like sings out. It's also really hard to make sure that you're not just doing a pull off.
Right.
It doesn't sound. Yeah.
And it doesn't sound
the
right.
same.
It doesn't sound the same as. But that's a hand killer if you don't just practice it.
Even the fact that you have to do that position shift.
Yeah.
That's,
Like that's
over
tiring.
and over again.
That's,
Yeah.
That will
Yeah,
add some wear.
and this is like on a bass, like this is the hardest part of the instrument to continuously play. So it's, I didn't mind taking it a little bit differently and getting 90% of the way there.
And we didn't mind either.
Oh, thank
We
you.
we really appreciate you coming. We really appreciate you volunteering for this one because
My pleasure.
it is a beast. So thank you both. And now I think we're going to take a look at some other songs. Actually, Matt Al asked in the chat, what other wrestling-related music might we have in the library?
Right. And in fact, I think he was asking specifically. He said someone keeps asking him, play
Yeah.
this one song. Can we help him narrow it down?
Well,
Maybe because there's a lot of answers to that.
there are a
question.
lot of there's been a lot of music used for different events, but we do have some things in case you missed them. These songs have all been used, and again, this is something that Chris helped me out with a lot as far as just knowing which wrestlers might have used which songs and what other songs might have been used just on their own as part of the that world of entertainment. So here we've got a few. Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries was used by Daniel Bryan, and we have our own take on Ride of the Valkyries in Rocksmith, the Rocksmith song pack. Pantera's Walk was used by Rob Van Dam. That's in the Pantera song pack. Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child Slight Return was used by Hollywood Hulk Hogan in the WCW's New World Order, and part of his return. Sorry,
Hogan also used
oh,
that. Yeah. I
Well,
just have
what
my
was that?
headset on so I can chime in now.
Sure. What was that also used for?
It wasn't just NWO Hogan. He used it
Okay.
for a little bit when he returned as Hulkamania Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
And note on the Van Damme thing, that was, of course, his theme in ECW, and it was actually a cover of Walk by a local band that they used, rather than Pantera original. But, I mean,
Okay.
they played it very straightforward as a cover.
It's very, very, very kind of true to the source. We also have Joan Jett's Bad Reputation, used by Ronda Rousey. That's available in the Joan Jett song pack. Shinedown's Enemies was previously used as a Raw opening theme. That is in the Shinedown song pack. Marilyn Manson's The Beautiful People was an earlier SmackDown opening theme. One of Chris Wu's favorite opening SmackDown themes. That is from the Marilyn Manson song pack. We also had Drowning Pool's Bodies, which was previously used as a SummerSlam theme. That is in the 2000s Mix 5. And I think you said it's been used other places.
I think it's one of those songs that's been used in compilations and stuff before. I don't think it was
is
anybody's theme, really. But
Bodies has been used in a lot of sports entertainment. Also, Living Colors, Cult of Personality, which you just heard, was CM Punk's theme, and that can be found in Rock Hits 80s 2. So if you want to check out
bonus fact, which is not a direct allusion, but I've seen talk online that Kalisto's current theme has aspects of Ezio's family.
That's right.
Which I thought was interesting, and I actually wasn't aware of until I started searching for it. But
you would think we would know more about that.
You would, but apparently, if you want some very interesting connection to modern wrestling, you have that in that particular theme in the Ubisoft
music song pack. Yeah, from the Assassin's Creed 2, the Ezio saga.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, we are ready to introduce our next guest. As you notice, I'm here. I'm all alone now. Chris Wu has abandoned me. Oh no, there he is, right beside Anthony Martinez.
Baga.
How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thank you.
So
how are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Excellent.
Thank you. This has been a really fun stream for me.
Yeah.
It's been nice to not be just alone.
So
by myself.
terribly alone.
So terribly alone, with no one to keep me company, keep my spirits up. It's been nice having that sort of emotional support today.
Yeah. I'm here for you, Doug.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm your rock.
That's pretty good. However, it turns out that's not the song that you're playing.
No, but speaking of rocks,
yes.
Stones
are
like rocks.
They're synonymous.
Yes,
I guess. Yeah. So Stone Cold Steve. The banter. Stone Cold Steve Austin theme song. I Won't Do What You Tell Me, which sounds familiar.
Is it us responding to everybody on Facebook?
I don't know. Just kidding. We listen. Just make sure you use the request app.
Yes.
And use the forum. So let us know if you have issues or feature requests.
Yeah, we're happy to hear them. In all honesty, we take note of it.
So you can find actually the forums. If you go to rocksmith.com, you can go to the forums there. Also reach out to us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram @RocksmithGame and Facebook.com/Rocksmith. We'll get you to your regional version of the Facebook. So right now, you guys are going to do the Stone Cold theme. I Won't Do What You Tell Me.
That's correct.
Which neither of you note tracked, it turns out.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
But have you had a chance to look at it? Anything we should keep an eye out for during this?
It's a pretty straightforward groovin' track. what's nice about it from a learning standpoint is that it's super repetitive. It's just sort of like on a loop, which is sort of thematic of I think the songs in this pack. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's just nice to groove to it. And while I was practicing it, I was thinking to myself, how cool would it be to have this theme song? Like, I enter a conference room and it's just playing, and then
it's one of the most badass themes.
It really is. It's pretty cool.
Well, what would your theme song be?
This one. Yeah.
Okay,
it's just,
you just take this.
Yeah,
this
just this song.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Chris Wu?
Like existing ones, or
No, just if there was a song that played whenever you entered a room.
That's
What song would that
I'll
be?
have to think about that until the end of the.
We'll circle back
song
around.
playthrough.
We'll circle back around.
Actually,
to
you know
that.
what's a good one that I think Daniel Bryan used when he was on the Indies? The Final Countdown.
Yes,
that'd be a very good entrance theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think especially if you had a cape.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a look at I Won't Do You Tell Me, the theme for Stone Cold Steve Austin. And again, if you have questions for us, make sure you reach out to UB Jurassic in the chat. Is that the tritone that Frank was talking about earlier?
Oh yeah.
Well, the camera's on you guys. Somebody came over here and threw a bunch of chairs off screen. So that was taken care of. So we've got a lot of that pentatonic just riffing. This one very, very harsh, but also has that like tinge of funk to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is an interesting mix.
Absolutely, yeah. You can find that like a different voicing of the E7 sharp 9 in Purple Haze.
Oh yeah.
When I first learned that chord, I knew it as the Jimi Hendrix chord because that song really popularized it.
Can we hear the two versions?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this one here. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
that would be like the full voicing of the Jimi Hendrix chord, just up one octave. But for this song, you only have to play a portion of it, starting with this G sharp. So basically, you're just omitting the root note and playing the next 3 tones. Very funky, very nasty with that distortion. Whereas the Jimi Hendrix chord for Purple Haze, right here, still has that sound.
It's still tense, but not as like sharp.
And it's played in a completely different context too,
Right.
so it just sounds different. It sounds a little more, funky, but really, really cool theme song.
Yeah, this is the song we alluded to earlier. Stone Cold had basically given Jim Johnston a copy of Bulls on Parade and said, I'd like something that like is kind of like this, like something that evokes this feel, like this attitude. Jim made this in, I believe he said he wrote this in 20 minutes and produced it in 8.
8 hours.
8 hours, not 8 minutes.
So the whole thing. There's an interview on Steve Austin's podcast.
Yes.
Where they talk about
just like that creation
process, and that he sort of asked him like, so how long did this take you to make? And he told him, about 20 minutes to write and 8 hours to record. It's like, that's it?
Yeah. So Cold was like, I thought it would have taken you at least a couple days or something. But he says that because he likes his theme so much.
Yeah.
Because it's so perfect for his character.
Right.
But you don't need to spend a lot of time on something, I guess, if you get it right the first time. So.
And I talked a fair amount to Jim about that in the interview that we're going to see very shortly. Yeah. Actually, we might go ahead and move on to that interview. Cool. So thank you both very much for stopping by and playing.
Yeah, thank you.
And so as I mentioned earlier, Jim Johnston, I was able to speak with him last week. We had a great conversation. We kind of scheduled to have like a 5 to 10 minute interview, and we ended up talking for half an hour. So
that's great, man.
Stick around. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at that interview. And if you have, we'll stay in the chat and talk. You had something you wanted to say
before we throw. Also, I do believe we also have another prize pack that we'll be giving away at the end of the interview.
Correct. The last prize pack, the last Ernie Ball prize pack of today, will be given away after the Jim Johnston interview. So please stick around for that, and we'll be in chat with you. I'm going to step away for just a few minutes, but I'll be back in the chat with you very soon. So please enjoy the interview with Jim Johnston. I'll be right back. Hi, and I want to welcome our very special guest today, Jim Johnston. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
So you're joining us here on the Rocksmith developer stream. We're going to talk about your work composing themes and just being a composer and a musician. So welcome, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So we're going to start with composing and arranging. From what I've read, for the most part, you record everything all on your own.
I do, largely. The only time I would get someone in is, well, for the most part, when I can't do it. So if I was doing, it's interesting that the WWE themes, from the outside looking in, most people immediately assume it's blazing metal rock, and I really didn't do a lot of blazing metal rock. It's a lot of hybrid orchestral type stuff, all different kinds of music. But those rare occasions when I would do a really hard rock piece and really needed the shredding lead, I used a friend of mine, just a science fiction level guitarist. His name is Jimmy Bell.
Jimmy Bell?
Jim, yeah.
So sort of your pinch hitter for solos?
And, he just does that shredding thing that I'm incapable of, and I don't feel like spending the 30,000 hours to be able to do it.
Right, but I have read before that sometimes there have been times where you've wanted an instrument for an arrangement, and you've said, well, I need to learn that instrument to play.
Many times.
Many times. So what's when you are approaching?
There's another important part of this puzzle too.
Sure.
Is that I'm so uncomfortable working with other people, not out of impatience or thinking they're not good enough. it's just it's a part of this stage fright thing I've got going, where if there are other people around, the creative process is an interesting one in that you've got to be able to take chances and try stupid stuff, basically, because you never know when you're going to run into a happy accident.
Right.
And like instead of picking up the shredding guitar, you pick up a flute and see what happens. A lot of times, most times it doesn't work out, but as I said, a lot of times you get a happy accident. But along with that, I'm just not comfortable having people in the studio with me, so it just became easier
to learn
the instrument and move on.
And what's in general when you are approaching a new instrument, what's your methodology? Like, what do you use?
Oh, I'm an ear musician, so I'll get the equivalent of a chord book,
right,
to just get the basics. But generally, it's much more focused, Doug, on what is the part I need to play for this piece of music. So rather than learning the instrument, it's more like I approach it trying to learn how to play this part.
That makes sense. That makes sense because you only need to know within that.
No, it makes no sense. What makes sense would be to call a flute player.
well, given that you're not going to do that, it does make sense in a way to approach it. Like, this is what I need to play, so this is what I'm going to play.
No, it's also I enjoy the process.
Good.
I enjoy
good
messing with different sounds and different instruments. So that part's good.
So you've already mentioned a few things that I wanted to touch on. When you are writing one of the songs that sounds and plays like a rock song or a metal song, is that how you approach the writing of it, as a sort of traditional rock or metal song, or do you approach it as a score? Like, how differently would you approach?
That's an interesting question. I honestly don't think I'm conscious of either when I'm doing it. I guess it's an amalgam of everything, that I know that this is going to ultimately be a rock piece.
Yeah.
But I also know it has to be the right score for this character. So I guess they happen simultaneously. But a lot of the rock pieces I end up writing on piano. A lot of the stuff I do, I write on piano. I think only because, for me at least, and I've heard this is the case for other people, a guitar seems to put your head in a place where you're just listening to the guitar, whereas a piano, it lets you imagine more clearly all the stuff that would be around the piano, including the piano not even being there. Like, oh, okay, I'm playing this. It's like, okay, I hear what the bass is doing, and the guitar will be kind of doing this, da 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 da, and the drums will be doing da da da. It just it seems to expand the world much more broadly.
Would you say the piano? Sorry, what was the last part?
At least for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Would you consider the piano?
And then I'll pick up the guitar, and it's sort of like, okay, I've been given the music, and now I have to go learn it on each of the instruments. So, and I'll pick up guitar and it's like, I'll go over to the piano. What was that thing that was doing? Da, 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 and try to learn that.
So the piano is more of like a blank slate sonically, where you can interpose.
I guess
superimpose.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And when you say you don't like having people working with you in the studio, that there's often the question about when do you consider a song complete? Now, that's not the question I'm going to ask you, because you have had a very unusual privilege, I guess, or duty, where those songs are revisited over time, and there are new iterations of the songs that are played in front of people, which is something that most
that's unusual.
And how does that affect your approach? Are you as sort of perfectionistic with the final piece, or are you able to think, well, this is what I want for now, but I have some ideas, but I want to hold off on those and maybe use that later on for a different version of the theme?
Well, so many times, Doug, I would get to the point of perfectionism, saying, like, I think this is just right. that was driven by the perfectionism of knowing how to tell time, and I had 2 minutes to put the song on the satellite to get to the show, which is starting.
He's like, well, I guess it's done.
Like, I think it's perfect right now. So in the very rare, and I mean it was really very rare, in the very rare times that I really had time to suss things out, it brings up a curious point, is in the time post WWE, where I've been able to take the time, which has been such an incredible godsend luxury, to get up in the morning and choose, I'm going to work on that idea I wrote the other day, and to not have to have it done by 6:22. I can work on it, and if things come together, great. I could also work on it more tomorrow, or I could put it aside and work on something different. I guess everything was on such a time schedule that I guess the whole notion of, wow, is it exactly the way I want it, just kind of never entered into the equation. It's like, when's my current due date?
Right.
But your point, curiously, I've never really thought of that, is that creatively it is somewhat of a luxury to be able to go back to the plate, per se, and say, I think that would have been better a little faster, and change it.
Cool. With those changes, what was sort of the cadence? Was there a specific cadence of the updates for a particular theme, or like was this a seasonal thing, or did the narrative influence when a theme might change?
It was mainly driven by storylines of a guy making a transition from a baby face to a heel, or something like that, or hooking up in a tag team, or he had started out pretty low on the totem pole and now he's a pretty important guy, or she's an important woman, and so we need to have a little more flash on that.
Right. So popularity, narrative constraints.
Well, popularity counts. Yes.
Popularity will get somebody a new theme. If they explode on the scene, you're getting a new theme.
Yeah,
you're getting an update.
Most of the time it's not a new theme, it's an update.
Right. You get maybe, and for those updates, say someone has a pretty radical heel turn. How do you approach the old theme, and in general words? How do you approach the old theme and sort of heal it up? Yeah.
Heal it up. Most of the time, the changes weren't that radical, because I always tried to write themes that you could love to love or love to hate, but I still felt like the music should be good.
Right.
Early on, I would have to do stuff like, toilet flushes, because that equaled a heel.
Right, and so people go, the toilet flushers, and everybody in the audience just starts,
And finally we got out of that era, and that everyone should have good music. It should just reflect, Jaws by John Williams was maybe one of the ultimate movie themes of all time.
Yeah.
And it's a staggeringly brilliant theme, and it happens to be for a shark that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was going to mention, like Star Wars, where a lot of the different characters, they'll have their own themes, and you might hear
Darth Vader's theme, tremendous theme.
And you
but
might
it's
hear
for a really bad guy.
Right, and you might hear a little bit of that theme sort of roll through something else if there's a hint of that character's.
Yes, and it's a great example too, and speaks to the brilliance of John Williams, of which I'm an enormous fan. It opens the door later on when, of course, we find out that Vader is Luke's father, and the guy's dying, and now this guy we've hated for 2.5 movies, it's like we're feeling bad for the guy. It's like, wow, you got seduced by the dark side, you poor son of a bitch, and that's just not fair. And so you can take that same theme, orchestrate it a little bit differently, and suddenly it elicits compassion.
Yeah, it's really good. And so that's the sort of mentality maybe you would use when approaching a character who's going through a different narrative strain that maybe is a bit more tragic or
I think it's important to try to the most important thing in writing for me is to make people feel something. And to start that process, I've got to make myself feel something. So unless I'm starting to weep or something, then I don't consider that I've found the solution yet.
Okay.
You know, another great John Williams example is his theme to Schindler's List, which throughout the movie speaks both to the horror of the Nazis' treatment of Jews, but also at different times is used with incredible tenderness to the bravery of what these people went through to get to the end of that horrible book. You know?
Right.
So I always figured that Undertaker's theme. I always liked that there's an element of danger to it and scariness, but there's also a kind of mystical, religious edge to it about, wait a second, folks, there's a bigger picture here that we don't see that you need to respect.
Right. That's really interesting. Because there's when the supernatural sort of seeps in a little bit.
That's what makes it good.
Right. That's so fun. I love that.
If he's just a big dead guy in a black coat, you know,
Right.
there's not a lot of energy in that.
Right. And speaking of energy and what the music has to carry, oftentimes your themes are they're the first sign that a viewer, a spectator, will have of who's coming down. And they know, like, they hear that first sound, they know who's coming, and they are able to instantly react. And I imagine that much. Were you able to spend a lot of time watching the crowd sort of react to hearing, basically having the reveal be the music, and just exploding with that first note or that first sound
Early
effect?
on, I went out on the road a reasonable amount, and after a while, I never went to events. I think something I said earlier. I guess I developed I'm a pretty faithful spiritual guy anyway, but I developed a musical faith that if it's moving me, it will move other people. You know, I can't be that far off. If I'm getting tingles when I listen to it, then I'm assuming a good portion of the audience probably will too, particularly if there happen to be pyro and lights going on.
Right.
When they get to listen to it, which is not the case in the studio.
Right. Yeah, I guess they get a little bit of kind of spectacle boost in the adrenaline. A little bit
extra adrenaline when they hear it.
There's a little bit going on in those arenas.
Yeah.
So you have worked with a few rock bands and hip hop artists. How, especially since you don't necessarily like being in the studio.
Well, that's actually I was going to mention there's one exception.
Sure.
I love working with qualified. I love working with good singers.
Yeah.
I find that process really exciting to because singers are in large part are so insecure. They always think they're not doing a good job or that it doesn't sound good.
Well,
and to draw them out and get them, and I guess it's because I so understand that feeling, and I guess I treat them the way I wish someone would slap me upside the head and treat me.
Yeah.
It's like, this sounds great, but you gotta, things I would say so typically were encouraging them, stop reading off the paper. You have to make this a story that you're singing from your heart, that you believe. And so I love that process. And so working with bands a lot of the time was it's an interesting and fun process to try to help or make them understand your vision about what you want this to sound like at the end of the day.
Right.
And most of the time, unless they were really big fans and kind of got what was going on, they would view it as we just want to play as loud and as hard as possible. It's wrestling.
Right.
You know? And it's like, no, this is not about making a wrestling theme. This is about making music, 100%. It's not 99% about making music and 1% wrestling. It's 100% about making a great song. And I want this to end up like you guys wrote and cut a song for your new album, and I heard it and I said, oh, damn, this would be the perfect song for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
Perfect.
That's
we have to get a license to use this song.
Right. that's a great way to look at it. And I assume in those situations you would sort of would you have final say? Are you sort of directing that process when you're working with an outside?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and even if a couple of times, I'd work with a band where they were either obstinate or just not that good.
Yeah.
And that was the curious thing I found a lot is that bands. For starters, most bands are one guy and some of their high school friends who come along for the ride.
Right.
So there's one like creative guy who's really quite good or potentially good at what he does. So if you can connect with that one guy, you've got a shot. But sometimes you run into people who are just very arrogant, or they're so driven by their own passion that they know better than you, and you end up getting something that's unusable, and which is sad. And I would do my best to say in nice ways is like, I don't think this is the right direction for this, and so at a certain point you just have to give up, let them finish. You pay them what you have to pay them to make them go away, and,
right.
and move on to the next band.
Cut your losses and start with a different idea.
The most difficult thing with hip hop guys is no matter how much I would steer them away from this, almost always the first thing I would get back would just be horrible. It'd be like Saturday morning cartoon shows. I would go in, having experienced this before, saying, you've got to have the rap be about, well, first of all, every rapper, it's an important part of that genre. They want to do it in their flow, their style.
Right.
So they don't like doing the rap that you've written because the flow is right. So I eventually learned that but I would still write out a complete song list of lyrics.
Yeah.
Give it to them and say like, okay, you can use this, don't use it, up to you. But this is the storyline,
Yeah.
This is the suggested storyline. It's about this badass guy.
Right.
From the neighborhood that nobody screws with because the ramifications will be indeed horrible. Okay? And what I would get back almost every time, first blush, would be, I'm gonna go to the squared circle, I'm gonna bop you upside the head, I'm gonna ram you, I'm gonna pile drive your ass. And I said, it's like, it can't be about wrestling. It sounds like a cartoon.
Right.
Right. This does not sound dangerous. I'm gonna bop you up the head and pile drive you. That does not sound, it needs to sound like I'm about to die. That's the whole point here.
Right.
And
like build some tension.
Most of the guys caught up, and then had a lot of great experiences.
Good. We're glad to hear that. Going back to when you're creating the first theme for a new entertainer, what sort of references do you use? Do you have like a bio for the person? Do you watch video of the wrestlers?
The important things are there are really two important things
Okay.
to really get me rolling, which is size. Is the guy 7 feet or 5'5"?
Yeah.
And is he slow plodding 7 foot, or is he Ultimate Warrior? Is he crazy, frenetic, fast moving? So Warrior was a and big guys are it's going to be a slow, heavy, plodding beat too, because the music needs to say that this guy is a frenetic maniac,
Right.
or that this guy is a monster. And he's not quick, but if he gets his hands on you, it's over.
And he might be behind me at like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dread.
And then after that, it comes the mood, but that's the real mystery, because that's pure vibe. Maybe I get to see a little footage of previous matches, something. I just try to vibe off the guy. Get something that would connect.
Is there ever a conversation?
Pretty rarely. It's a bad idea to have conversations, because very few.
Because they have ideas.
Well, loosely defined, yes. The difficulty is real simple, and I understand it. I'm not even being critical. It's they think of it in terms of the music they like to work out to.
Right.
So if they listen to Metallica when they work out, is like, I'd like it to be exactly like this Metallica song. It's like, well, that's not your character, though.
Right.
It's nothing to do with your character. And so bringing them around to Sean, I didn't write it, but Sean never liked his Sexy Boy theme that Jimmy Hart did for him.
Yeah.
But he absolutely was smart enough to realize, is like, this is the money for me. I am the Sexy Boy.
Right.
That's the game here.
And this is why those people are clapping. This is why these people are shouting for me.
Yeah. And I mean, it certainly, he loved the DX years when he could have a different thing, but long term, and God knows he's still using it today. So it's a lesson that a lot of the other guys should take to heart.
Right.
If something's working, boy, don't screw with it, because that's your identity is everything. And without that identity, you become what I think the business is now, is just a cavalcade of generic wrestlers that you can't tell apart.
Yeah, because I think that's why people cheer for their favorite wrestler. Their favorite wrestler, not because they're necessarily the best wrestling, but they have that personality that draws them, and the music is part of making that personality. It's part of that character design. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, you're right. It doesn't have much to do with who's the most popular. It's who they like.
Right. Which is, you've got your own, like, these are the people that I follow. These are the people that I like. That's who I want to win when they get into the ring.
Yeah, it's not like they're necessarily rooting for Babe Ruth. They could be rooting for the guy on third base that most people don't even know his name, but they like his vibe.
Cool. I'm going to switch over to some guitar stuff right now. I've seen you've played a lot of guitar. I've seen you a lot of pictures. You have a guitar. When did you start playing guitar?
Wow, a long time ago. My dad rented me an acoustic guitar because he didn't think I would stick with it.
Yeah.
And that was maybe when I was 10 or 9 or 10 or something. And I was never good with lessons, and just got chord books and would play along with records, which is what I would recommend, unless you're going into classical music. That's what I would recommend for anyone is play along with your records. Listen to what great people have done before you, and try to play like that.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when you get some reasonable skill sets, then if you have the desire, and you think secondarily you might have the gift on top of that, try to veer off into a style of your own.
Yeah.
Or start writing your own stuff. But if you like anything, if you study the classics, you're never going to get too far off course.
Right. You got all the fundamentals sort of under your belt, and you're ready to break those out.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. What role do you think the electric guitar specifically has in modern composition, either standalone pieces or for film, television, video game scores?
Well, rock and the electric guitar are at a sort of unfortunate low ebb right now. And I sort of blame the rock guys for that, because sort of like creativity stopped in terms of expanding things stylistically, and it suddenly just made this jump to not expanding the genre at all, but right over to then sampling the guitar and doing all these virtual instrument guitars where it doesn't even really sound like a guitar anymore.
Right.
And I think there's a lot still that could be done with, I don't know, mixing, and I've thought about doing some of these things, about doing a sort of hybrid rock, other things.
Yeah.
A perfect example of that is, forgotten the name of the people and the title, but this, the big country song that
Old Town Road?
Cyrus did with a rap.
Old Town Road and
Old Town, yeah.
Little Nas X. Is that right?
Yeah. And anyone who heard it was coming said this is the stupidest idea. The country audience will never accept this. And now it's been like the longest #1 record in country history or something. Yeah. And it's like, people, if it's done well, people are really interested in listening to new stuff. And I don't think the rock community has done that. And so now you've really got me thinking about, wow, that should do some stuff like that.
Yeah,
but I mean,
so this is a challenge.
With, it's kind of been mixed with orchestra, but in an unfortunately hokey way, where the Journey has a 85-piece orchestra behind them, but they're still playing the same freaking song. They just have an orchestra. I mean, how truly integrating in some fashion with the orchestra?
Like right with the orchestra in mind.
Yeah. And I don't know. Certainly, a few people have done what's been termed rock operas, but I don't. There isn't a whole lot of rock in it. Rock on Broadway that's not just a compilation of oldies or something like that. So, yeah, I think there's so many musical possibilities. It messes up my days because I have many more ideas for songs and compositions and projects than I ever have time to get done.
Right.
Really a frustration for me.
Well, that's good. That's great.
Well, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
But it's also, it doesn't make it any less frustrating. You can't finish the correct.
Right. Right. Well, so you just need to put those deadlines. It's got to be by 6:40.
I need my own satellite feed at 7 o'clock every night.
Hey, where's the piece?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just about out of time.
Okay.
So people can find you. Your website is jimjohnston.com. We'll probably have that in the feed.
Yeah.
Are you on social media at all?
I am, but I'm not a real social media guy.
So the website is the way to go.
If people want to get in touch, there's a way to get in touch on the website. And I'm actually, I've been asked by a few people to just curiously, as of very recently, to write some themes for a couple of guys, which I think I'm going to do.
Cool.
And so if I do that, those will end up on my website soon. So
Fantastic.
be on the lookout.
I want to say thank you very much for joining us here today.
welcome. Thanks
We really
for having
appreciate it.
Great.
As I was sort of researching for this interview, the one thing that stuck out to me most is just how beloved you are, and how
that's
much
nice
the
of
fans
you to say.
appreciate you. Everywhere I looked, that's what I saw, and so I just want to say you are loved, and thank you very much for joining us.
Oh my God! Well, that's incredibly. You made my day with that one. But thanks for thinking of me, and thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much, and
All right, Doug.
back to us. Hi, it's back to us. I remain Doug Lilly, the host of today's stream, and the one of the hosts.
Yes, and
of
I
today's stream.
remain a co-host of today's stream, and I remain Chris Wu.
Chris
Although
Wu.
you may have noticed that we lost our table.
We did. Now we're back to the
Unfortunate
podium.
incident, as it were.
Yeah. Somebody came in and just smashed up the place, but it's going to be okay. We're going to make it through it. It's going to be
Anthony
fine.
will recover.
I think at this point we're well enough to give away the final Ernie Ball prize pack of the day. So please listen to what UB Jurassic is saying in the chat for your chance to win. Chris, would you like to tell the people what they could win?
Well, in today's second Ernie Ball prize pack, we are giving away, first of all, 2 sets of Ernie Ball regular slinky strings, 1 set in bass, 1 set in guitar for both flavors of stringed instrument players that Rocksmith currently supports. To perform actions on said strings, we're going to give you 2 sets of picks. One is going to be a set of Ernie Ball Everlast picks, and the other set's going to be our very own custom Spectrum plectrums, which we have designed and created here in Ubisoft San Francisco. And the only place you'll be able to get and play them is through this giveaway, or if you actually stop by the office or somehow see Dan.
Yeah, if you stop by the office, you stop in the lobby, say hi to Coco, be very nice to Coco, or whoever's at the front desk, and that person, probably Coco, will offer you maybe a pick or 2.
Perhaps.
But otherwise,
if not, come and enter this raffle, and you might get a chance to win.
That's the most sure way, especially if you're not in the Bay Area.
The most sure
Yeah.
way is to do the raffle. Yes. Doug.
Yes. So please listen to what UB Jurassic is saying in the chat. You do have to follow the channel in order to win. And if you win, Brian, that's UB Jurassic, he will reach out to you via Whisper, and we will need your full name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. And if you are outside of the U.S., make sure you split up your address line by line to make it easier for me to get you your prize. Help me help you.
But that was only 4 of the things.
Oh,
that
sure.
What
What else? What else can they get?
By God, we are also giving away a red guitar strap to hold the instrument that you'll be putting your strings
All
on.
these things fit together.
They all fit together, and when you install those strings, you can use the Ernie Ball peg winder that we're going to be giving you to make your life easier and save you a bit of time. And finally, after you've got your instrument all strung up, all in tune, all wound up, you'll be able to maintain it and keep it entirely minty fresh. Your strings, your body, you'll be able to keep it all sparkling clean with the Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes, which are specially formulated wet wipe type cleaning supplies, which will help you keep your strings fresh and keep your body of the guitar shiny and new. What else can you use them on, Doug? Probably just the instruments, huh?
Well, you can use them on the instruments, but it's not just the strings. There are several wipes. Some are for the strings.
Specially formulated for each part of the guitar.
Some are for the fingerboard, and some are for the body of the guitar.
Everybody deserves attention.
Every guitar body
Every
deserves
guitar body, every part, every
every string.
Every string, each particular string.
Make sure
Doug.
you get around and under the frets.
They're
That's where
seriously wonderful
gunk,
wipes, guys.
The gunk really adds up around the frets.
Yeah, and
because
and
we're all
I
disgusting.
think we've all seen those real crusty fretboards. With these Wonder Wipes, preventative care is always better than having to ask Dan
an
to
ounce
clean
of
your
prevention is worth
a pound of
luthering.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what the kids say.
Because it's better than buying a new neck, unless you need a new neck.
Then buy a new neck.
Yeah, but if you don't need to buy a new neck, just keep your guitars nice and polished. Minty Fresh was a bingo card. I'm not sure if that's been removed or not. Since I don't think
No, I think I feel like it's still on there. Should still be on. It's my favorite bingo space.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mine is Doug says something existential, I believe, because it's about me and I'm a narcissist. Hi. So please, good luck if they haven't already drawn a winner, because we've been talking about it for about 5 minutes here.
Looks like there is a.
There is a winner?
No,
it's still going. You still have a chance to win, according to what I'm seeing in the feed right now. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks again to Jim Johnston for letting me talk to him for half an hour.
Really generous with his time. We really appreciate him responding to us.
And please check out his website. It is jimjohnston.com. Don't forget that T in the last name, Johnston.com.
We've
not
also
Johnson.
put it in the chat
It
for
is in
you
the
to
chat.
reference.
Yep, and I'll write it again right about now. Well, in just a moment. Coming up next week, we can't say just yet what is on the way. We will be back next Thursday with another stream featuring whatever it is that we release. If you want an idea of what's coming out, where can the people head?
They can head to our official Rocksmith forums, which you can find through rocksmith.com
That's
or
right.
by navigating the typical UB forums. I'm sure somebody could also post a link to the chat.
That is almost 100% going to happen right about now. So yeah, head to the forums tomorrow morning. There will be a clue posted. UB Jurassic, am I posting that one? I might be posting that one. If I'm posting it, it's going to go up a little bit later than usual. But these clues are made by a fellow community member, Rolling Stone 222, who used to be too good at solving clues.
He was too good at
222
solving.
good at solving clues. So now he makes the clues. So check us out in the forums tomorrow morning. If UB Jurassic says that he won't be posting it, then it'll be me posting it. So it'll be posted on Pacific time after I wake up. So a little bit later than our usual clue. We're also on social media. We're going to be posting, if you can't make it to the forums and you don't see what we're releasing early, over later in the weekend, we'll be giving some teases as far as what's coming. So check us out on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Rocksmith Game. Facebook, we're facebook.com/Rocksmith. Check us out there. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Chris. Anything you want to say to the people?
Thank you for having me. I hope everybody out there enjoys this pack. Even if you're not a fan of professional wrestling, this should inspire you to send in your requests if this has inspired you to think about music outside of traditional songs that you might want to see or learn in Rocksmith. So really, we like to think of it as the sky being the limit. We can't guarantee anything. It is it's more of a suggestion box, not a vending machine, as Dan likes to say. You can't just enter in a song and expect it to be delivered like that. There are realities of proper music licensing and song creation and everything like that. But really, whatever motivates you to pick up an instrument and play, no matter what it is, no matter if it's a wrestling theme, a video game theme, something you heard in a film, movie, or TV show, everybody has their inspiration from somewhere. And we hope to be a place in which you can learn exactly what it is that drives you to play an instrument here at Rocksmith.
Great. We're going to take one more look at the wrestling theme song pack, and we will see you next week.
What the Rock is cooking.